Most lawyers guess at what a TBI case is worth. I stopped guessing 100 cases ago. I spent 15 years practicing one area of law, TBI litigation. I spent the last 7 writing the book. It's called The Ernst Way, the definitive guide to TBI litigation. Every case I tried, every depo I sat through, every witness at trial, what worked and what didn't. 15 years of depth down to a single question. How do you prove what a brain injury costs a human life?
As an anesthetic, they administer nitrous oxide laughing gas through a mask. And after he's finished and he's dizzy out of it, they allow him to get up and he walks out into the hall and loses consciousness, falls onto his head and onto his face and is unconscious for 20 minutes. But he's got all kinds of cognitive problems, memory issues, problems with his affect.
Yeah.
He's his wife describes him as kind of being dumbed down, lost his sense of humor. Flat affect.
Where was the bleed? Do you know what part of the, it sounds like frontal lobe, parietal lobe?
I think it was the middle cerebral artery, so it was the parietal. Yeah.
Okay. What do you think the biggest issue with your case is?
Well, they're going to say, he's gone back to work, no harm, no foul, and he's able to work, although he gets lost, which is a bit of a problem.
Yeah, I don't think he should be working. So let's go there. Working backward from the verdict line will generally be loss of earning capacity, medical, past and future, and then general damages, non-economic. So what you want to do is you want to carry forth the truth from the verdict line backwards. And so what you want to do is, number 1, let's do loss of earning capacity first. You got a checklist dealing with work restrictions, and you should go through them. Is he able to bend, twist, grab, link, all that stuff? But there's a lot that are like ortho stuff. The real ones you want to focus on brain injury is cognitive stamina and what's called cognitive fatigue and ability to be safe in their job for themselves and other people. So working on loss of earning capacity, you want 2 main ones. You want a PT/OT specialist that is understanding what the problems are going to be, number 1. And then number 2 is working backwards from that. You want a vocational rehabilitationist that's going to do some testing that's objective. There's a number that will sometimes do that, and figuring out who that is going to be is pretty important. With regards to what he's doing, the easiest arguments you're going to make isn't he can do the job now. You should make that argument, but on the scale of how good it is, we always talk about it because it's the one right in front of us. It's really like ability to do the job now is like here. And everyone focuses on this one because that's what the defense says to us a whole lot, and we're like, oh, they can do the job.
We do.
I don't care about that as much. You still want to argue it, but it wants to be one of the lower arguments you want to make. You want to make the retire early argument. Because this is a very easy one to make, and everyone's like, yeah, he got a brain injury, and he has a midline shift, and he gets lost in the woods now. How many more years do you want to think? I think you should work, just generally, common sense, I think you maybe, at the high end, maybe 2-3 more years. And that's if he's really trying hard. And then you work back and then you say, hey, and the range is he might not even should work now. Because what happens if the other falls down in a ditch and so I'm unconscious and they're like, hey, go find that he's the only one around. Would you want that guy to be the guy that comes and finds you? Of course not. What are we talking about? And they're saying, oh yeah, he can do the job, and the defense starts sounding really kind of shitty when you frame it in a story about that. Yeah, you got a question or comment? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Who finds on ability to be able?
Great question. It depends on the sophistication of the doctor. And in brain injury cases, it's tough because it's generally not neurologists. And people make this mistake all the time because they want the neurologist to be the anchor for the big life care plan. Neurologists generally can't be the anchor for the big life care plan. And if you get a neurologist, it's like, yeah, I'm going to say he's totally disabled because of this, this, and this. The only way they can do that is if they're missing part of their brain or have a crazy seizure disorder or something really bad. Generally, it will be a treating doctor, which I know you're like, what, treating doctor will say that? Yeah, a lot of times the treating doctors will say that because they've been seeing him for years. Hey, he's a firefighter, he's had the problems, all his medical history. Do you think based off the limitations you're seeing day to day with his memory problems, he should be working? And when you ask that question in a depo, it should be an hour in. People make the mistake and just, I kind of view it as football. I don't know, football people out here, but it'll be like first down on the 50-yard line in the second quarter, and they're like, I'm going to ask the treating doctor if he should be working. Hike, like, I'm going to throw a Hail Mary, and they like send it. And it's second down, and not even the second half. And I'm like, why would you ask that question? The goal is to load enough context that when you ask the question, it's already like done. You're on like the 1-yard line and handing the thing and being like, run the ball in. Because you're like, does he have problems cooking? Yeah. Does he have problems at home? Yeah. Does he catch things on fire? Yeah. Has he gotten lost? Yeah. Has he gotten lost in his car? Yeah. Has he gotten lost at work? I don't know. Has he gotten lost where he can't get into his own house because he forgets the key? Yeah. Has he forgotten the code to the thing? Yeah. Does he have lockers at the office? Oh, I don't know. Does he have tools at the office? Yeah. Are those heavy? Yeah. Does he have lifting restrictions? Yeah. Let's talk about the jobs and duties of firefighters. Then you go through a big list for 20 minutes. And you make a big list of all the ones he has problems with. And then you talk about other things. You talk about a bunch of other records and other things. And then you show him a picture of the brain injury. And you do 5 other things. And then you come back and you're like, based off everything we've talked about for the last 2 hours, I know you know the answer to this already. Like, should he still be working? And they're like, of course not. Like, you see you load all the context, and then by the time you finally get to the question, the doctor sounds like an idiot if he's like, yeah, you should totally still be working 40 hours a week. He won't say that. What they'll do is they'll be like, oh, I can't give an opinion on that. Or, hey, doctor, I know medically, we're not talking about medical, just based off your training experience as a doctor, if this was a new client that came in, should he be working? And then they'll give it up.
Sorry, I was just going to add to that too, on some of the cases that we work on. Oftentimes when the issues or the cognitive issues aren't as glaring as the way that you've outlined, the vocational expert will propose based on interest, aptitude, skill sets, training. I think potential, they should do X, Y, or Z, and they listed a whole bunch of jobs.
Yep.
Then the OT actually goes in to test the skill sets and provides the functional data.
Yep.
So maybe in theory, they could do these things, and maybe the capacity for those things have gone down. But the functional data then substantiates that ability or inability to be able, because we actually say, no, we saw him doing a data management task in a seated position without distractors, and he couldn't do it for more than an hour, or whatever it was.
Yep.
So it's not just a hypothesis anymore. So we test the vocational experts.
Yep. And it's something that your vocational expert a lot of times will give a big list of, hey, they could do these other jobs. It's generally in an office setting with nothing around, sterilized, there's no interruptions. Work capacity, stamina, work-life expectancy. That's where you want to play. If he is getting lost and fire and all the problems, you need to go find out what the activities of daily living are that he's having day-to-day problems with. Because, I hate to say this, but guys especially, if they're 40, 50, 60, and especially if they're blue collar or like ranchers or like work on that kind of stuff, they will be missing limbs and be missing part of their brain and say they're fine. So don't talk to them, talk to their wife or their spouse or their kid or someone else about how, or their coworker, to get this information. Because if you just ask your client, I joke about this, but like these cases are worth some millions and sometimes tens of millions of dollars. And we know they have memory problems. And then we go to the client with memory problems and say, tell me all your symptoms, and we make our whole case off that. And it sounds crazy if I frame it like that, because you're like, oh yeah, why would we do that? But it's what we do in a shoulder case and a foot case and all the other cases. And so we've assumed that tool set will be the same tool set that'll work there, which you don't want to do. So if he has problems with the activities of daily living, you want his treating doctors are the best. They're gold standard. Everyone views it as experts. Experts, I tend to view the expert as the one that is designed to explain what the treating doctor's already said. You can have it just be expert driven, but it just makes everything harder because they get crossed and they have an expert that just says the exact opposite of all your expert, where you can stand up in closing, and if on a lot of these treating cases, if you do the intake right and you work it through right and they know all their problems, they tell every doctor they meet with all their problems, or their spouse does. With the life care plan, you want to be figuring out what's the way that you can substantiate the life care plan as much as possible. The way I like to think about it from like a mental model framework point of view is think of a lawyer you don't like, another plaintiff lawyer, defense lawyer that you really don't like, and they have a plaintiff case, and they basically are like, hey, I got this plaintiff case, I know you don't like me, but can you look at it for a sec? Exactly. And here's the life care plan, and you look at the life care plan that lawyer that you don't like gave you, do you think it's legit? And like, that's what we're asking the defense to do, because they don't like plaintiff lawyers and they think the life care plan is some pie in the sky number. And they look at the life care plan with that lens and then they're like, why don't they believe us? Like, of course they're not going to believe you unless their experts start having problems and say, yeah, I do think he needs 4 to 6 hours of attendant care a day. Or yeah, I do think they need they do have endocrine problems and they need hormone injections all the time. All of a sudden you start having those issues and the defense is like, well, we're disputing the amount of the life care plan in terms of how much attendant care, and well, we're disputing the cost of the hormone treatment, but we think it's legit. Again, working backwards from like what you think the biggest items are to make sure that you have the foundational basis for the story to make them legit, even if you don't like the lawyer that put them forward. And so I get life care plans all the time from other people that are like, hey, take a look at this life care plan. And I'm like, what do you have supporting this? And they're like, that's it. You know, it's just a gigantic credibility problem that then if they get up at trial and put the life care planner up and there isn't that credibility narrative the whole time, like the lawyer doesn't even believe it. Like I have lawyers that literally will be like, yeah, that life care plan's kind of bullshit. That's more than 50% that say that.
Let's raise the bar together. I'm Taylor Ernst. Thanks for watching.